Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be going over the review and evaluate steps of the merge intervals problem. So I decided to use a couple of examples to demonstrate that it should work. So this first one represents the scenario where all three would merge into one list, since you can see there's an overlap here, an overlap here. And same with this one, except it will just be with these two that will merge. And we also have this example where none of them are merging because they don't overlap. We also want to check some corner cases like this one where it's just an empty array. And then we have a more complex input where all of this overlaps all of the other inputs, so it just merges into one. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this and then go over each step of the program. So we'll start with this first one. So you can see right here we have our 2D list, and each of these is the intervals. The first thing we're going to do is check if the length of the intervals is less than or equal to 1. So if there was just one input of an interval, that wouldn't work. We would need at least one for a comparison. So in that case, we would just return that, but this is longer than 1. We initialize the merge intervals variable with an empty array to store our output. And then we start with our current interval, and we set this to the values 1 and 4. You can see right here, 1 and 4. And then we start our loop. So we're going to start our loop and assign to the next start and the next end is going to be the one after the first in the list. So the first index. So you can see that's 4, 5 right here. And next, what we're going to do is check that next start is less than or equal to the current end. So the next start is 4 right here. And the current end of the first list is also 4. So that should run the code in the if statement. So we check that. If the current end, we assign to the current end the maps of the current end and the next end. So that'll be 4 either way. Or I'm sorry, it will be 5 since the next end is 5 here. So now we have 1 and 5 as the current start and the current end. And we do that again for the final list. So we check if there's an overlap, and there is, because both the current end and the next start are 5. So it'll run that. And then we finish the loop and we append the current start and the current end, which is 1, 8. So we get that list that is merged of all the intervals. So let's just do one more where just 2 get merged so we can see both parts of the conditionals. So again, we check that the length is greater if the length is greater than or equal to 1. And then we store that. And then once we go through our loop, we assign those values. If the next start is less than or equal to the current end, okay, so we look at that and we see that there is no merge, right? Because the current end is less than 9. So we go into the else and we just append whatever the current start and the current end is. So that gets saved as 1, 5, and then we shift over and use the next start and the next end as our current. So this should change to 9 and 10. And then we check it against 10 and 14. And let me go back, since the current end is the same as the next start. It's less than or equal to, so the current n gets assigned 14. So that was a merge, and we append that. And that is our desired result. And just really quickly, I'm gonna go through the other two. So we can see that if it's an empty list, it will just return an empty list. And then we had this example where this overlaps all the rest of these. So we have 220. And just evaluating my solution, since we have a for loop right here, this is going to be an O of n solution. I'm not really sure if there could be a more efficient solution for this. So I would probably ask the interviewer, is there anything I can improve, or do you have any suggestions? But I think this is a good solution so far.